Hello everyone, welcome to RS Craftworks. I am back. Apologies, it has been a very long time since I've actually filmed something, and that's because I'm not good at this yet. I will improve though. So quite a bit's happened. You probably noticed there's no tarp over my shed. It's not wet or completely and utterly showering inside here. I've actually got a roof, not the best of roofs yet, but could be improved in the future. For now it's just holding water out, and I've actually started insulating the inside of me shed here, as well as actually starting to get some wiring in place as well. A lot of that's actually boring work, so really you're not missing much. All I did was get these sheets of insulation here, cut them with a knife, measure out what the cavity is, cut them to shape, stick them in there, and then just, I'm also using this aluminium tape or aluminum tape for my US friends there. Just use that to fill in or tape around the gaps on the sides, because I watched a video somewhere somebody did that and I thought, it makes sense to me. So that's all I've been doing, just cutting insulation, putting them in the cavities wherever I can, and just taping up everything with aluminium or aluminum tape. And yeah, and then I also put some back boxes in a lot of places. I've got loads of back boxes. I've got like 10 socket areas in this place, because I'd like to be able to plug in a machine anywhere in the workshop for a future. And yeah, put some back boxes in, routed some wires around. Routing wires isn't that difficult. You just buy a spool and try your best to route it. One thing of note with the wiring that I've been told is that, if I can just jimmy up things here, all right, and that's a good one to look at. So my wiring goes along the top of the wall there, and it comes down. I was told that's the best way to set out wiring for buildings, because if it goes down, not many places where there'll be an errant wire. If you see a back box or a socket outlet, you can sort of, I know that the wire goes straight up from there. So if I decide to install stuff, for example, I won't be drilling into the wire and potentially hurting myself quite badly. So that's one note about the wiring that I found is the best way to do things. But otherwise than that, it's fairly boring, repetitive work for the rest of this, and I'm just going to get on with it until it's done and then make it look pretty. Speaking of making this place look pretty, today's project, I'm actually standing on it right now, stand by, and here we are. This is the piece of plywood, a full sheet of plywood that I have spare from building the shed, and the worst piece possible as well. I've avoided using it because it's very bad. It's got, if you can see here, voids in the actual veneer, plus on the other side as well, it's a lot worse on the other side, where bits of veneer adhesive have actually made their way through the veneer. It basically looks horrendous, and also it's covered in mold because this got wet during the time when this was a tent for a very long time. And yeah, just a horrible piece of plywood. But I was insulating this wall without windows. It's a very wide wall, 4 meters wide, and I was looking at that and I was thinking back to, I'm a big fan of Bob Ross, I've been watching his videos as well, and I was thinking back on Bob Ross, see people attempting his art as well, making feature walls out of his art. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to try my own Bob Ross, and here's what happened. Well, okay, moving swiftly on. So basically, people have been making feature walls using Bob Ross's tutorials to make spectacular pieces of art, to be fair. And I'm not that good, as you saw. And I was looking at this piece of plywood thinking, do you know what? If I just prime this lot, make this into some sort of canvas, I can make my own sort of mural type thing. And that's what I decided. I was in the middle of it, had a spark of inspiration, contacted my group of friends and asked them, listen, I want to get some ideas. What the hell should I make this mural out of? Wood, apparently. Yeah, so I just got some brainstorms from my friends, and after everything that we talked about, pretty much most of the things that we love as a friend group is gaming. So this is going to be a gaming themed mural. The idea is basically, I'm going to make, I am 27 years old, and I remember my very first video game was Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Mega Drive. At least the one that I remember. I probably played other video games before that, but that's one of my very first memories, and I figured quite cool kind of mural idea would be to have a level select type thing. So there, obviously I've got more than one favourite game at the moment, and I figured what I'll do is I've got a circular saw with a height adjustment. What I thought I'd do is make a grid system with saw curves to separate, make them each look like a level select on an old school 2D side scroller type thing, and on each panel will be dedicated to a different video game that I have fond memories of or love or is a big influence on my imagination. Most of my imagination comes from video games, to be honest, and that will be the idea. So first thing I need to do is to cover the ugliness of this plywood with primer. So let's get on with that. So that is one side primed up and ready to go. This will be the back side because I don't want any voids on the actual wall when you actually look at it. So I've decided to prime both sides I'm hoping this paint will actually seal it and stop it from absorbing any more water to turn it eventually banana shaped, because it's already starting to do that. Once it's attached to the wall, that will keep it into submission anyway. I'll screw it into many different places. And next step for me really is to wait for this to dry, get it on the other side, mark out my grid system, and then start cutting it out with my circular saw. So see you in that bit. This angle's a bit new, but just to show you, I've installed the piece of plywood on my wall. It's actually stuck to the wall. I've just used a couple of screws in, make sure I screw into the studs obviously, and yeah, that's what it's going to look like. Obviously once I've painted it all, it's going to take an awful lot of work. 6 times 8, 48. Yeah, 48. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll find out in a bit. But 48 panels which I need to paint, and I've got to paint them in individual styles and make sure that they somewhat make sense and that on first glance you understand what the game is without it being obvious. So next step for me is I found this extremely old and rusty what looks to be a flush cut saw with a plastic handle in my granddad's collection of tools. I'm just going to use that to clear all of these channels, just going through making sure there's no fuzz, no sawdust in there, and I'm going to paint all of that as well. Try and make this as good a work piece as I can possibly make it. So that's the next step, as well as painting the insides with primer and then getting ready to colour with acrylics. Alright, so I have primed everything, including the gaps in between these panels with primer. Now, the reason I'm doing all this is because I'm doing some acrylic paint over this, so I don't want the paint to be absorbed by the wood. And also, to get the best effect out of this stuff, black 3.0, if the light won't blind it out, and hopefully I'm holding it in the right way. Black 3.0 is made by Stuart Semple of culturehustle.com, that's where you can buy this stuff. And fascinating stuff, it absorbs 98% of surrounding light. So when you look at it, kind of looks like a black hole. It's just looks odd. Doesn't look right. Usually when you look at things, everything reflects light, right? But this doesn't, it absorbs it. so it kind of looks like a black hole, which I figure it's a cool effect. See what it can do with some of these displays, and I have some other experiments to do with it as well, so we'll catch more of that when it comes to it. But now I've got an extremely tedious and boring job to do. Tedious and boring are the same thing. I just got to go in between these lines and paint the black 3.0 just to hopefully give it a border effect and also hide any roughness that's in there. So let's get on with the extremely tedious task. Well, that was a tedious task, but just a quick tip, in case, I'm sure you know of this already, but if you play music while doing tedious tasks, if you're at work, unfortunately, you have to get permission from your workplace to actually play music, but honestly, if you play some good tunes, you can get tedious dumb work fairly easily, although it may not be done quickly because in the middle of it Vogue came on and I started voguing for no reason. But that is the tip. If you're doing tedious tasks like this, just stick on some good music and vibe. Just vibe, man. That's the only tip I have for this. And now, this is where things get a little sketchy. Pun intended, apology not sincere. And that will do it for today's video. You can see I've pretty much finished the first panel and I'm starting the second one. Head movements are weird. Yeah, so that'll do it for today. I will do, I'll pretty much show, I will do real-time footage of each painting, time-lapse, and yeah, that'll come in its own video, but that's pretty much it for this project. All I did was just make a grid system, and each one's going to be a different picture, done similarly in that sort of fashion, so that is it for this project. Next thing that we need to do in this shed is really get the insulation sorted. I won't be filming any of that, but I do have, if I can somehow get down, I've got some paneling. I'm doing tongue and groove natural pine because I figure once it's oiled it'll be nice and warm in here. It kind of look like a log cabin, so that'll be one of the next things to do, as well as installing my power sockets. So I will see you when I eventually get around to doing that. Who knows when it will be done. Okay, take care everybody, and see you later.